everybody, to our monthly energy training club and Heart Warrior meet. So here we are, yes, talking about June energies and how our experiences in May have influenced or can or will influence the way we see our future. We did quite a few sessions that had to do with the etheric, the more energetic understanding of ourselves. Last month, we did a mini marathon, Grace, Gaia, Sophia, that handles the spiritual salvation and understanding, what it actually is that our drive was in the past. Yeah, how these attachments to, let's say, some of our karmic experiences, inner child, etc., have shaped our life. And we also did a transmission series for the future self, past self, and the higher etheric self, which was very cool. And did a karmic relationship clearing. And there was a lot of things that came forward in these sessions that I want to summarize here and talk to you about in conjunction with the energies to come. So one of the big themes that crystallized over the last month was how our struggle in the past is potentially or can serve us now. How to recontextualize, that's always what spiritual contemplation really helps us with, how seeing it from a new perspective, what we had to go through, is serving us now, and what aspects of our past struggles or attachments is no longer serving us. And many of you have gained an understanding now that, whatever it was that you went through in the past was important. Yeah, even if your ego didn't like it, even if you had to go through a bunch of tribulations, but it led to you being here now. And this is a very important spiritual insight, because that's what leads us to salvation. It leads us to making peace with our past. Yeah, and making peace with our past, not necessarily, liking it all. We don't have to like it, but we don't need to resist it. Yeah, we don't need to shove it away. We can take it on and own our part in it and learn from it, how that is our salvation, how that then elevates us to the next level. So my question for you is, are you ready for the next level of growth in your life, on your journey? And what comes up for you when you hear me ask this? Does your fear get triggered? Your performance anxiety? Or do you get excited when you hear me ask this? Who is ready for the next level of growth and dares to share?
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Hi. I think I feel at the moment like being in an in-between state.
All right.
Yeah, I can see all about the past and what you talked about, and then feel that it's okay. It had to be so. But then there's a kind of gap now, or in-between state.
So
Yeah.
it's like an emptiness. Is that what you're describing?
Yeah, exactly.
Let me tell you something about this.
Yeah.
And we can all raise our hand here. I mean, I can. I know exactly what you're describing. There is something very well, you know me, I like contextualizing things in a funny way. There's something very funny about this. When we find out how our pain and our struggle and our stuff, yeah, has really filled up our lives with purpose. All right. And when this falls away, yeah, how we are almost feeling like we're grieving something. So, Aneta, what this means is, yeah, what I just said, it's probably hard to understand right away. There is a payoff in hanging on to all the old stuff. Okay. And when that payoff is ready to fall away, there's a little bit of a void there in us because now we don't really know how to identify anymore. It
Yeah,
was such a big deal for me, you know, first, of course, in my early years to recognize that I'm a survivor, you know, that like, yeah, you know, I had a lot of trauma and yeah, that makes me a survivor and that gave me a lot of energy, you know, like, yeah, I gotta, you know, fight for injustice and help those who were victimized and you hear me, right? That energy, right? It gave me so much, you know, drive, yeah, to go out there and hold the flag and, you know, bring truth to stuff and all that. And as I was doing this, you know, and processed all the deeper levels of this, I started to no longer really feel that anymore. I was like, okay, well, I guess we're all survivors in a way, you know, I guess we all have our trauma. I guess we all experience our journey as struggle in some way, you know, and it neutralized the whole thing. I couldn't really feel this this deep rooted motivation anymore. Why? Because I had healed myself from that. I no longer felt this resistance with it. I accepted that there is injustice. I accepted that we all have a karmic journey that leads us to having to go through stuff and that we all experience it in our ways subjectively so that we can't really compare. You know, I can't compare my struggle with your struggle. Yeah, that's not possible. Psychology does that sometimes, but you know, when you really dive into it, you recognize that whatever we perceive as struggle, that's what we perceive as struggle. Yeah, whether you know your trauma is not as bad as somebody else's, or somebody else's trauma is not as bad as yours. Yeah, and I realized that I pulled a lot of energy out of this mental construct that my trauma is so much worse than other people's, and that nobody understands me, and that my pain is so special. Like, I'm not saying that this is the case for you, but I'm describing in my own words, using myself as an example here, how this emptiness felt all of a sudden when I realized that well, I guess my struggle wasn't really that special, yeah, because we all experience it in our own way, and it's you know it's our own pain that is needed for our growth. Yeah, and I begin to see the pain as as a tool, really. And then I had to ask myself, if I want to continue seeing my own pain as so special and so big, so much worse than others, what does that tell me about me? That I am like a really tough case, that I need extra struggle to grow. Can you follow me here? Yeah. So I was like, oh, I guess that means that I'm like a really tough case of specialness or tough case of ego. If I need that much struggle, you have to get me going. All right. I started seeing it in a different light. does that mean, yeah, that I still have so much more to heal?
I'm laughing because I thought it was me who has the most.
What? That's not possible, Annette. No way.
I can really, yeah, I have also been a quite good victim and thought about all the pain and all the stuff. But I can I can I can feel that all my avoiding and hiding and I have felt so ashamed of all my stuff. It have changed, so I can more see that it must have been so, and more acceptance of, and it's I like that I'm not so. I can see that it does not work hiding or and avoiding all the things.
Yeah, and also the anger, right? I mean, I can tell, I can
Yeah.
speak for myself here. There's a lot of drive, a lot of, energy in that anger. I'm going to
Yeah,
show
yeah.
you, how bad, how hard you made it for me, or, like stuff like that. It's not easy. It's not easy to let go of that.
Oh no.
Yeah. And when we do, and I'm so happy that you can laugh about this, okay? Because when we let go of it, okay, that's when we begin to stand in truth. Yeah. So truth doesn't really focus on fear or anger or pain. It's why on the scale of consciousness, on the calibrated scale of consciousness from Hawkins, pain, victimhood, fear, anger and resentment, and also some of that motivation that leads to pride and specialness and righteousness is below truth. We cannot be in truth when we are standing in that energy. We cannot see it for what it is. Yeah, so standing in truth always means seeing things for what it is, seeing things how they are, how they truly are. And those of you who were in the energetic, yeah, you guys were all in the energetic tune-up. You heard me say this in the forecast. I said something like, you guys were shadow fighting all your life. I'm going to talk about this a little bit. Shadow fighting. Yeah, so Annette with one N, yeah, this emptiness that you're experiencing right now is a really good sign.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is also a bit of a danger because if you cannot fill this up with a new perspective,
Yeah.
you will pull the old stuff back in. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to fill this up now. This is what it means to actively step into your karmic journey. You now need to see that and you need to say, all right, I'm recognizing the specialness of my pain and my struggle in my past and all that came with that. So I'm willing to let that go. I'm okay with that. All right. Now I need to start fresh with a new attitude, a new perspective on what all this that I'm doing is about. What do I want this to be about? Where do I, actively invest my energy in? If I go back to the anger, if I go back to the pain, to what drove me, via my inner child and my shadow and so forth, to do whatever, we all have different coping mechanisms. Annette, with two N, for you, it was avoiding and hiding. Well, and for you, Annette, also a little bit avoiding and hiding. Yeah, and for others, it was more fighting, or it was, like trying to be the bigger victim, or going into righteousness and criticizing and judging everything. Yeah, so there's many different ways how we individually cope with this load, this karmic load that we all carry in the first part of our life. But once we let that go, we now need to actively contextualize what we're doing. I am doing this because I am investing my energy into this because, in other words, you've heard me say this at occasions, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That is what I know what I'm doing means. Not I'm better than others, not no, I know what I'm doing means I am consciously aware of where I'm putting my energy. And because I'm standing in truth, I know what it does or what it can do. So it's this, and this comes with Gaia Sophia, especially with the third session. I am consciously devoting my energy to this because I know what it will do for me and others. Yeah, it will fulfill both of these aspects that I call the promise to my higher self or my soul self and the divine. Yeah. I am investing my energy into what I want to create for myself, out of myself, and for others. That's basically what I want to leave behind me. This is where your focus now needs to go. It's a
Hello,
rewiring.
hi ladies. Hi everyone.
Hi.
I just want to add something also. When you say if we are ready, like I feel a little bit of both, a little bit of excitement, and a little bit of fear as well. But the fear is more, because I do want to express myself and fulfill the promise to myself and the divine. But a little issue that I have, it's because I'm trying. I'm trying, but I feel like this expression is like somehow this intimate expression is still needs to be needs to have a little bit more, I don't know, time or practice, because I feel there is something that wants to come out, but it's not really taking off quite a form, if you know what I'm saying. Because I can feel like energy is rising, like sometimes within myself, like it's like my first chakra is feeling like starting to feel like really good and grounded, but then when it enters second is still a little bit of like a struggle, and it's
Let me give you a tip right here. Don't get fixated on the form. It's not about the result.
okay.
Already said it. You need more practice.
Practice, okay.
Yeah, that's all, especially when it comes to expression. And if there's a struggle, that means you're probably not experimenting enough, as in like trying new ways. Yeah, because if you keep running into the same impedences, can you pinpoint where the struggle lies when it comes to like expression? Are you talking about verbal expression?
No, I'm talking about like writing an article expression.
Oh, that is a form of verbal expression. Yeah, that is a form of verbal expression.
Okay.
Yeah. Because you for the most part, I mean, unless you had a professional writing training, you write how you would express it and more. There's usually a little more that comes out when we write because we have a little more time to think about what we're saying. But if we are not entirely clear about what it is that we want to express, then our writing can be erratic or unstructured, or it's not really bringing it to the point. That's fine. All that requires is practice. I consider myself as a really bad writer, okay, and having to write down, yes, having to write something down is such a struggle for me. And do you know what I mean? I've been doing this for 15 years now, and I'm like, geez, can I just hire somebody to write for me. Do you know what I mean? And it's not, see, you say, really, maybe you like what I write, but I don't. Yeah. I wish I could say what I want to say in one sentence or two. And I struggle so much with that because I have to use so many sentences to just even get close to what wants to come out. So what do? I just keep going. You just keep going, Kwasha.
Okay.
But the other thing is also, and that has to do with the form and the result and the lack of experimentation, just to find different ways. Maybe writing isn't really what you're supposed to do. You know, it's maybe something you want to do, but maybe it's not what you're supposed to do. Maybe you're
Okay.
much better to sit down with someone, yeah, and be present energetically and respond to what they're saying. I've seen you do that many times, and you're very powerful there. You know? And a lot of times, trust me, guys, a lot of times it doesn't even require a lot of words. So that's just a new perspective. Yeah. So that here, I'm just trying to inspire you to not get fixated on one way. Yeah.
Yes,
There's
I need to
other,
try new way because I feel like I'm not moving forward.
yeah. Then do something else. You know, make a drawing. You know, construct something, or sing something, or you know what I mean. There's so many different ways
There is, yes.
to express what we want to get across. And the beauty of this is there's no limitation. This is one of these wonderful things about being human. You know, I was in the music industry very early in my life. Some of my friends became famous musicians, some of which only had one hit wonder, were one hit wonders, and some of them became one of the greatest composers of our times. And I've always wondered, I was 16 years old, and I wondered, is there really a way to create great music? Because everything has already been composed. It's already like, I mean, and Bach and Mozart, Haydn. How can you compose anything better than that? Do you know what I mean? And even the pop songs at the time, yeah, sure, they all use sort of the same chords, but I was convinced there's no way to compose anything really great because all the great stuff has already been composed. And the same with books, with writings, all the great things that need to be expressed have already been written. Yeah. Aristotle, Socrates, Dante, Shakespeare, I don't know, Goethe, Heine, Rilke, just to name a few, of my favorite authors. And I'm like, it's like, why should I even try? They've already said everything there is to say. Steiner. Do you guys really think that that's it?
No, that would be, I mean, it's all, yes, like you say, a masterpiece, and
Yeah.
but then that would be the end of everything, no?
Exactly. We all carry the potential for a masterpiece within us. And there's no limitation as to how we can bring this into expression. I sometimes look at, how people created their garden, or how they, I don't know, the interior design of their houses. Or yesterday, at the party that I was at, they had like a balloon creation, a balloon illusion that was beyond beautiful. Yeah, people who can do this balloon art. I don't know if you know what I mean, where they create these like humongous figurines from balloons. And I was just in awe, you know, it's just balloons and air. But it's in the way they tie it together. Yeah, they've created a whole sort of illusion world with just balloons. And, you know, these things are the things that make us wonder, the things that create the wonderment in life. So when I talk about this and finding new ways to express ourselves, I'm not talking about, you know, becoming the new genius of your art. What I'm talking about is that the variety has no limits. There are ways to express ourselves that we may just not have discovered yet. If I would have gone by what my ego said, how I should express myself, I should look at myself as a total failure because my ego wanted me to be a famous scientist. Do you know what I mean? Like I never asked for doing what I'm doing right now. But the way it came to me was through seeking truth within myself and listening within myself. Yeah, and here I am, you know, working with children, working with animals, working with grown-ups on healing and assisting them in their lives. And that was nowhere near what I thought I should seek or try to get good at. Like almost 100% or 180 degrees the opposite. 180 degrees opposite. And that's why I keep telling you guys, look into the opposite of what you're trying to do. Just as a mental exercise, because you might find something there. See, when I talk about shadow fighting, what I'm saying is that you've been, you know, struggling with stuff that still is all attached to your shadow stuff. Yeah, if you go 180 degrees, yeah, if you do it backwards, even if it's just for the fun of it, you will be able to see other things. Gosha. And in the end, you may still write about it, but writing is no longer the purpose. But maybe what you experienced in the process of letting go of wanting to be a writer. It's always something that amazes me when you read biographies or listen to famous people such as J.K. Rowling or whatever, you know, like more recent examples of famous authors, how their story went. And they didn't really plan this. They didn't really plan to be the greatest author or which, you know, anything like that.
Most what I read just say that they just expressed was what was within, like they had to, like they felt like this you know, surge of energy, and you know, not all of them, but some.
Yes, and most of them, they had a love for something. There was a love for something that drove them, you know, like the love for their children, like Rick Riordan, you know, who wrote the Percy Jackson series and that whole universe that comes with it. You know, he did it, he was a teacher and he did it for the love for students. And J.K. Rowling, I think, did it for her kids. You know, there is something else that drove her to do this. That a secret ingredient. And we cannot find that in our shadow world. Yeah, because there we have all the performance and you know, the fears and
that's a tough
this
programming.
And
That's a tough programming.
Exactly, all the past programming, exactly. So do it for just the sake of a mental entertainment. the opposite. What would be the worst that somebody could ask you, Gosha, to express yourself? Like the worst, the most fearful, that like when everything in you says no. That's the opposite, you know, the practice and looking at the complete opposite of what your ego is telling you to do.
Yeah, they're making a video or something. That would be the worst.
Okay, right there. Yeah. In a video or something like that. Yeah, okay. Well, maybe that's what you should try. Yeah, just for the heck of it. You never had to release it. But as you're doing just that, you may experience something new. You may get an impulse, make a new insight, or discover something that you didn't know about yourself. Because when you do shadow fighting, it's like a closed arena, you know. You can't really go outside of it. You're just always caught in it.
Okay, thank you. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Yes.
Just that's the impulse. That's the impulse of June. Try something new. Yeah. Now that you can let go of all the shadow fighting, all the old programming, and you recognize it, and you take ownership of your own part, and you no longer feel this sort of, oh, my life is so hard, or it's so hard for me, just go with it, construct something new, experiment. Yeah, if we run into the same walls over and over again, then that's maybe because it's too confined. And this is really how June energies are, because they're asking us to create new conditions or better conditions for our growth. So when our conditions, the terrain within which we operate becomes too small, growth or not conducive, either too small, too restricted, or when it's not conducive, it becomes extremely hard to grow. So instead of fighting against what makes it so hard to grow, we step out of it, and increase or enlarge or adjust or reevaluate the outer conditions. Our journey is like a constant sort of stepping in and stepping out, and stepping in and stepping out. It's like a pulse. Yeah. You step into your journey, and experience and internalize it. And then you look at it from the outside. That's the exercise, the practice of your consciousness. And look at the larger perspective. Yeah, the direct conditions that you're having. Then maybe the collective conditions that we're having. And then maybe the cosmological, the even larger conditions that we're having right now. And then you dive back into it. And you're like, okay, I get it now. It's no longer cool to be a victim when everybody's a victim or something like that. But what's the opportunity then? If everybody's a victim, yeah, well, there's a lot less to lose, isn't there? Because it forces everybody to step out of the old programming. That's the opportunity that I'm seeing, guys. This is starting in June now. Yeah. If everything that people have believed in and that they, based their pride on, or where they got their security from, yeah, if that starts to fall away, and everybody kind of like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do now? Okay, if everybody is a victim of something, then it creates new rules of engagement. Do you guys understand what I'm talking about? It gives you a lot more freedom to try something new, because the old system, the old paradigm has already proven to not be true. So you no longer need to try to conform with the old programming. Now that more and more people can see how that's not true, it gives you so much more freedom. So the outer collective conditions are better than ever for people like us. Does this make sense? Because none of the old quote unquote rules, I'm not talking about legal stuff quite yet, but you know what I mean, like societal rules, societal agreements, are intact anymore. And obviously that also gives rise to a lot of non-integrous and evil stuff. But it's what creates the perfect conditions for us to step into our integrity, into our light, without being afraid of being looked at as a crazy person or whatever the struggle was in the past. Does this make sense?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes, it is.
What I just did is an active recontextualization of our outer conditions. You look at them and you realize, all right, so here's my journey in context with the bigger journey. Let's say the journey of our times, you know, the journey of humanity right now. That's the going out. And then you go back in and you realize, okay, well, you know what? There's no time to lose. It's just maybe not exactly how my ego had panned it out. If anything, you know, this whole entire struggle that you've experienced, if it can teach you anything, it's that your ego's view on things, your ego perspective is very limited. It cannot see beyond itself, right? You guys know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, that's a huge step in a person's consciousness when they realize that everything that they believed in within their own little world, their own little ego world, is extremely small and insignificant to a degree in comparison to the bigger journeys. And that doesn't mean that we are insignificant as humans. It just means that we need to step out of this inner prison, this ego prison. We need to step out of it. Because for as long as we believe that this ego shadow world is the only playground that we have, all right, then yep, that's where we're going to be caught. That's where what we're going to be limited to. So we need to actively reprogram ourselves, rewire ourselves to do this as a daily exercise, to step out of our ego world, yeah, which includes the comfort zone and the perceived security and all these things. Yeah, just for the heck of it, just for the training of it. Yeah,
Yes.
and initiate this pulse, this in, out, in, out. Yeah, so right now, Gorsha, for you to just imagine for a moment that you might or should try to do a video, which of course scares the heck out of your ego right now. Yeah, good sign. That means that there's a small world that you just detected, Yeah, because you already, right, you already consciously decided no longer give that part of you the power. You already devoted your energy or dedicated your energy to wanting to grow, which means that every time you hit such a spot, such a feeling, yeah, like where your ego screams, no, 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 all right, you're on to something. You are on your way to grow. Okay. And what I'm saying is not that you should
Okay.
force yourself. Just
Yeah, I know what I mean. Like
recognize it.
sometimes when you like close to truth, the ego is really loud too.
Mhm. Exactly. And it is not, it's what you're resisting there, or what you feel as resistance within you is the imagination of your ego. Do you know what I mean? But when you actually go engage with it, it's like when you ask a 4-year-old to try a new dish, to try a new food. They'll say, no, I don't like it. Blah, 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 blah. And you're like, go try it. You know what they say about kids until they're like 7, 8 years old and their taste buds? They have to try it at least 10 times for them to actually form something like a true taste for something. And so this look on a kid's face when they try a food that they've never tried before, where they were of the opinion that they didn't like it, and the moment they put it in their mouth, and they're like, oh, mm, I like it. Okay, that I love those moments, yeah, because there's a rewiring that takes place in that child's brain. And while they were saying that they hate, I don't know, whatever it is, frittata, eggs, 30 seconds ago, they're now saying, oh, that's my favorite dish of all. Anybody ever witnessed that?
Yeah. Yes.
So, oh, I love it. Okay, that is transmutation. That is transmutation, guys. That is an extremely powerful energy that is unleashed in you when you try something new. And especially when you find out that it's so different from how you thought it was. The reason why I can make fun of myself in the past today, and with all the things that I said, I would never do this, is because there were so many things that I had opinions about, or that I said, oh, I would never do this, never in a million years. Da, da, da. I did them all. And no, I love them. Do you know what I mean? I have proven to myself that this part of me that is saying, no way, ever, that part is very, very limited. Because 9 out of 10 of these statements I've transmuted to become my most favorite things. I never wanted to have kids. I never wanted to work with kids. I never wanted to do what I'm doing right now. I never wanted to deal with people's pains and people's stuff. All right. I just wanted to be a scientist that hides in the lab and doesn't have to deal with people's stuff. So I've proven to myself that all these inner resistances, yeah, 9 out of 10, I'd say, not all of them, but 9 out of 10, were just of my ego's making. And by taking them on one at a time, I learned that whenever I have that kind of resistance in me, like you just said, Gosha, I'm onto something. I'm on to a wonderful new experience, one that my ego cannot think of. It cannot imagine it. And so I've made it almost like a sport for myself, yeah, to take all these things that my ego resists, just like how I do this with the kids, wanting to prove to them that they'll love it once they give it a try. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I've made it a sport with myself.
Yes, I will try it. I will try it. I feel like for that part, yes. Thank you. I'm ready for that part.
Nice.
Because before I feel it was still a lot of like entangled with like questioning myself. Now it's more,
Of course.
now it's different. Now it's different.
And you will continue to do that, but you will continue doing that. But, you know, as you go, you'll find out new things. And these new things, these hidden treasures, they will deliver you new impulses. That's the whole point. I can tell you here personally, Gorsha, and I've told you this before, you have a beautiful voice. Work with your voice. Yeah. And this can be in form of videos or audios, doesn't matter. But work with your voice.
Okay. Thank you. So who's excited for June?
Well, we're in the middle of the full moon phase here, so this is a good it's a good moment to be very conscious right now. Yeah, and to listen to these resistances. Yeah, like the vacuum or the void that you talked about, Annette. We're all kind of feeling this right now. Yeah, which motivates us to reevaluate, to bring in new ideas, to experiment a little more, and to transmute what I call drive, yeah, which comes from the ego, yeah, in form of these resistances and desires, yeah, third chakra, into something that is more congruent and more true to us. Yeah, that brings more joy for life, more love for life. Yeah. Remember, you know, life isn't about surviving it. It isn't about living as long as we can. It's not like an endurance race. Life is a karmic journey that gives us an opportunity to add quality, to add substance, yeah, to who we are. One moment filled with the essence of who we truly are is worth more than 90 or 100 years of just mediocreness. Yeah.
Yeah. I that's, you know, that's like I feel like this great, like deep, everything like gets deeper, and I want to go deep, and so within, and so like, you know, outside, and like experience everything, little moments on such a deep level, you know, like.
But remember that it's the pulse that creates or that co-creates. It's the internalizing, the deeper, and then it's the stepping out of it again and bringing it into the world.
Yeah,
These
yeah.
two things. What do I want to create for myself, out of myself? Then what can I create for the world? These moments are feeding your soul. That's food for the spirit being in you. And with it, basically the currency for evolving on this spiritual journey that we are on. Yeah. It's the ambrosia the Greeks talked about. It's the energy that projects into eternity. So it's not just about internalizing, not just about going deeper. It's both, guys. It's both. Yeah. So when it comes to fulfilling the promise to your soul self, step into that relationship, yeah, and ask your soul self, what can I do for you here while I'm on 3D to help you evolve? And then you step out into the world and you give that, or try at least, to put that into expression. You give it form. And you go back in. It's like, as I'm talking about this right now, I'm getting a visual. It's like asking your best friend or your spouse or your kid while being on a trip away from home, what do you want me to bring for you as a souvenir? What do you want me to bring for you?
That's beautiful, Jona, because I feel like I also felt like asking the right questions. It's really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, so people get fixated on the future of their 3D self. And that's because the ego's paradigm is so small. The ego can only think in 3D terms, which means it can only think for as long, it can only imagine things for as long as you're alive in this lifetime. Do you see how that is a very limited terrain? Why I call this a shadow box? Because your soul
Yes.
self, yeah, that exists outside of that box, it really doesn't care about that one lifetime. It kind of only cares about the souvenirs that you bring from that. Because that's where you're from and that's where you go back to.
I have not thought so much about that, but I can see what you mean. It's a two-way street in a way. Yeah.
Yes. In a big way. That's the difference between drive, which comes from the ego, yeah, usually first, second, third chakra, all the pain, all the struggles, resistances, desires, and the higher consciousness, the higher expression, fifth chakra, the greater vision, sixth chakra, and understanding the cosmological, the spiritual, the celestial meaning of it, the seventh chakra. And also how important it is to tune into our fourth chakra because it's at the center of it. Yeah, it's the bridge, the gateway. And it speaks to you as your true self, you know, which, as we practice this with connecting with the true self, you know, forms this two-way street. Yeah, where on one hand you feel the yearning, the impulse, you know, that comes from your upper chakras, for spiritual stuff, for understanding the bigger context. And on the other hand, you feel the drive, the push, the pull from lower chakras, you know, to feel secure, to feel belonging, to, you know, get a certain level of satisfaction and validation and self-esteem in this lifetime. And it's the heart chakra that can regulate that for you. Yeah, so as you're working with your true self, you know, it's almost like an approximation. You get closer and closer and closer to finding, you know, your authentic identity, yeah, who you truly are. And in that, you transcend that duality, yeah, that that whatever, it feels like a split between, you know, our spiritual reality and 3D reality, but there really isn't any. You just have to stand in the middle, yeah, and say, okay, now we've got to adhere to a few of these 3D things. Yeah. Yeah, we got to eat right, we got to exercise, we got to grow right, we got to, you know, interact with other people right, you know, build good conditions for our journey. And then we communicate with our soul self and say, is this where we should go? Yeah. Is this what brings us into expression? Is this what makes us grow? And then we juggle it, balance it out. Darkness is a tool, guys. It helps us to make adjustments and find the truth, which is the light. If it wasn't for the internal experience of darkness, we could not choose the light out of our free will. Because free will is a universal law. Yeah? As conscious soul selves, and let me repeat this, I want to emphasize this, as conscious soul selves, nobody can take that authority away from us. Unconscious souls can be lured into the dark and get lost in there. Yeah. So that's what this bigger context is of what is going on right now in the world. This big awakening, yeah, is all about us human ego selves here becoming aware that we are indeed a spiritual being and that everything on our journey has a spiritual purpose or background or meaning. Everything. Even getting caught in the prison of our own darkness has a spiritual meaning. And that's why the alignment for this month, Destiny, which is a big word for people, and it's obviously transfigured in most of our brains because, you know, of all the mythology and all these things. But if you really feel into this, yeah, you really feel into the word destiny and what you are destined to do, what you are destined to be. Make this your homework maybe for this month. What am I destined to be? Yeah, maybe a little more away from the doing, more to the being. What am I destined to be? And you have a good talk with your soul self. Yeah, it leads you to understanding your journey in a greater way. Your destiny is not to survive this 3D life, because the 3D life is not relevant in the bigger scope of things. However, your destiny is eternity or this eternal life as a soul self. But it's not accomplished by trying to overcome the fear of death, or it's not accomplished by trying to win over death. It's accomplished by overcoming this illusion that you're going to die. This illusion that you're going to die is an ego illusion. It's only the ego that dies, guys. Does that make sense? Yeah, so your ego's fear of dying is valid because it will die. But that's just the unconscious part of you. The conscious part of you knows that you're not dying. but what you were able to collect here. The amount of treasures, the amount of ambrosia, food for your soul that you could collect while you were here. A moment of total elation because you feel one with your soul self makes your soul self sing, makes it grow, makes it become stronger and more evolved on this bigger journey outside of 3D. So that's what 3D life is for, to collect treasures, moments of total congruence, moments of grace. If you look at that as your currency, your treasure that you're taking with you into the spirit world, you begin to see life differently. And what it
Yes,
is that you
Jona,
should
thank you.
focus on.
Very, very liberating. I feel like you are just speaking to our souls.
I am. Well, I'm actually speaking to you two selves, because your soul already knows that. I'm speaking for your
Yes,
soul.
yes. I feel like the self knows. Like I can relate to that.
And the struggle is always with the ego, and the ego is, I've mentioned this many times. It's like the baby self that you have. Okay, it's like the little guy. Okay, treat your ego like a kid with respect. Yeah, it's a future evolved soul self. Okay, yeah, but it's just a tiny, tiny, tiny little world that the ego can operate in, and therefore, the best way to work with your ego is to come from this unconditional love that a parent or or that your soul self has to you, like a parent has that to their children. It's like, that they have to make certain experiences, and that they will have to go through certain levels of pain, and there's a part of you that wants to prevent them from going through that, but that you can't prevent them from going through that, because it would also rob them of these moments of grace. Yeah. Can you guys hear the chirping? The bird chirping in the
Yes,
background?
yes.
No, I told you that I have a little
Nest.
couple here. There's these baby birds have already hatched a month ago, 2 months, no, 6 weeks ago or so. And this bird couple, they mate for life. They cut North Carolina wrens, that's what they're called. They came and built a new nest that's about 1.5 meters away from me. And the 3 little bird babies have hatched a week ago. So they're ready to fly probably in a couple of days. So I'm like the bird mommy here in the area, which is very cute. So as I'm talking with you, I'm just seeing mommy and daddy bringing food for the little guys. Every time they arrive at the nest, they start the high-pitched chirping. And they do this day in, day out, man. These parents, they love their baby birds so much. And then a week from now, they're going to build a new nest and lay new eggs. It's wonderful how nature does that. So these are moments of grace for me. When I see that, I recognize that it's not about the work, it's not about the resistance, it's not about these things, it's about creation.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming, for allowing this deeper kind of discussion. It's been wonderful.
Yes, thank you so much.
On this
Thank
journey
you.
with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep going, guys. You're creating lots of soul food right now. in the next years to come will give us so much opportunity to understand all these things that I'm talking about even better. Yeah. I love you guys and see you very soon.